Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to February 1st. We are here for another day of Astro Chat and Chill. I feel like the way that my face looks right now, it looks like I must be in a very cold place. Like my nose is all red. I don't know. I think it might just be literally my boyfriend keeps the house kind of cold when he's asleep and he still is like resting in bed. So that might be it, but I live in Florida, so it is not cold here. So it is February 1st, 2023, and I just posted in my Discord group the February 2023 horoscope. So actually, why don't we go ahead and take a peek at what it is that I just gave them. So if you are subscribed to my podcast, which I think I might have mentioned yesterday, that I was going to be posting this episode today. So this is kind of like a mini episode. It's, 13, 14 minutes long, and it is going over like February as a whole, right? So when we're talking about horoscopes, a lot of the reason that people will say like, oh, this doesn't really oh, that sort of fits, or like, oh, it doesn't really, totally make sound like me or whatever. First of all, it could be because maybe you've got your sun sign in a specific place, but like maybe you've got a lot of energy somewhere else in your chart. So for example, I know people who have like their personal placements in the sign right next to the sign where their sun is, right? So let's say you have like Mercury or Venus or even both in Sagittarius, and then your sun is in Capricorn. You may not be the like super responsible, like textbook kind of Capricorn, right? And there's so much nuance here. So the overview is what's going on up there. So it's not even necessarily like how it's going to interact. It's not like, oh, this is a reading for Capricorns or this is a reading for whatever. This is the reading for all of us. Like if we're talking about this in the context of it being a weather report, right? Like I'm your astrological like meteorologist. Then this is the weather report for February for all of us. And then for the people in my Discord, I also, couldn't find the right window for a second. I also included this little set down here. So I'm a Gemini rising. So what I told them to do was go ahead and listen to the astrological overview and then tap your rising sign to get weekly messages that are more specific. And that is actually based on, like I said, the rising sign. So this is using whole sign as our model for creating these horoscopes. But these are going to actually be more specific to you, and not necessarily like talking about your characteristics, although some of them do. But it's more so about the areas of your life that things will be more relevant in. And so like which areas of your life you may be wanting to pay just a little bit more of attention to this February. So this is just one of the things that the people in my membership communities get every month. And yeah, I just love creating stuff like this. I love making things feel easier for you. I love, I guess using the natural gift of my Virgo South Node to like systemize things and give you like tangible tools and stuff. And of course, I include my my booking link down there for folks who want to go ahead and book a session with me too, because maybe you go through these and you're like, damn, these are like, right, like these these reflections are like very specific, some of them, and they're like you are reading me, and so sometimes it's nice to have that little extra like specificity, that little extra bit of like, okay, but how does this actually apply to me, and how can I use this, because this is what I'm working on right now, or this is what I'm trying to get after, this is what I want to be doing with my life. I love Aquarius season. I mean, my Mercury is here. My Mars is in the 11th house. It's the house of it's the house of Aquarius. So I have like very Aquarian energy. I really enjoy just like the expansiveness of this time of year. This is always a time when I am like trying new things out and experimenting and being like, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, what do you think of this? And you could say that like astrologically, like let me go open my chart, that astrologically that this is like my spring, right? That I'm like in a moment where I'm really like trying to plant the seeds and like see what's going to grow to fruition. So let's go pop open my chart today. What's happening? What's happening today? All right. So here we are. Everything that's going on today. And of course, I've been dealing with this. That's how I'm going to phrase it. Mars being behind my ascendant still. Saturn conjunct my midheaven, Venus conjunct my north node, Mercury conjunct my sun moon conjunction. So I'm just like, there's a lot happening for me right now. And then I also have had this, I'm just like so done with Pluto and Uranus right now. Like I don't know, you can see that I'm very like 8th house, okay? Capricorn, like I am built for transformation. I am built for like being a person who embraces change. But like, damn, sometimes I'm like, soul contract, can you like ease up? Like, can I just have a minute? Can I please just chill? Because I've had this like Pluto going over Capricorn for the last like 20 years. It's not an exaggeration. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. And so this has been transiting like all of these placements for me for a very long time. So like life has been radically changing. Like, I don't even know how to say that. Like, but yeah, just everything I've been in a constant state of change and like reassessing, like reevaluating like what life is and like the meaning of it all. It's been a very existential like 2 decades. I am 34 years old. Like, this is absurd. I really should not have like 2 decades of life where I am like going through almost this like midlife crisis, like going through midlife crises at like 25, right? And it's because this Pluto transit has just been like truly kicking my ass. And just as I'm like, ooh, like about to get all the way through it, I had my Saturn return done. Pluto is going to be moving into Aquarius. They're going to be like touching Aquarius right next month. And so I'm finally getting this reprieve, but like, I've got Uranus opposing my Pluto. And so this is like a whole other thing and it's not over for several months. And I'm just like, damn, can I please catch a break? Like, can I please? It's fine. I'm exaggerating, but not exaggerating. Because of the way that I'm built, just like I handle change, I handle transformation at a level that maybe is like not something that, makes sense for other people or like would be like too much for other people. And for other people, I'm sure that they have gifts and things that they've been working on that simply would be too much for me in this lifetime, right? We all have our own gifts, our own skills, our own even struggles. And man, I've been so drawn to Chiron lately. I mean, I always have been. I've been talking about Chiron so much. I just feel like, for me, people, the one thing that I always hear, like, why, I have this question in my intake form when you come book a session with me. And I ask my clients, when they come on to be like long-term coaching clients, like, what is it about me that makes you want to work with me? Like, why me? Why not like somebody else who does like similar work? And hands down, it's always like, 99.9% of the time, it's because they like my energy and my ability to just like do what I want. And then I make it look easy. And I don't know, my philosophy is that we are all gonna die. Like, I'm very eighth house. I'm constantly thinking about the fact that like today could be the last day, or like tomorrow could be it. And so like, am I seriously gonna sit here wasting my time doing shit I don't want to do? Like, am I seriously gonna be sitting here like, no? And the fucked up part is that we like put this on hold for so long. Like, people like my dad put that on hold, you know? He was like, nope, gotta, work for his family. And then he had to like go like get his career on. And then he, got married and had a kid and got divorced and got married again and then got his house. And, he did like the whole responsible adult thing, for the most part. And then, it was such a shock to us when he was like 40, it was like 39 maybe, when we all realized like, oh, he has been like dependent on alcohol for a very long time, and we just didn't see it because he was functioning the whole time. And I digress. I just feel like his thing, like his whole, like, it's not like people don't have substance dependence issues. Like, it's not like he woke up one day and was like, it would be super fun to be an alcoholic. Like, that sounds like a really good time for me and my family. No, that was not a choice that he made. He just like, that was a placeholder to help him cope with things that were unseen and a life that he didn't want, and I wasn't there when he died. It was very shocking when he did, but like something that I think about a lot is like what was he thinking about? Like, did he know? Like, did he know? I don't know. Like, that's just something that, I don't know. I feel like he passed away in his sleep, and it's like, did he know in his dream? Like, did he know? Like, was he content like in his last days? Like, I don't think so, and that's like such a bummer. And I just don't want that for myself. Like, I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anybody. And that's really like the reason that I do this. And that's the reason that I always come back to Chiron, is because Chiron is one of the easiest ways for us to see like, why am I doing this? Like, what is my problem? Like, I think I'm probably gonna write a book one day, and that's gonna be the title. Like, what is my problem? The secrets of your Chiron. I don't know, but like get your shit together, like, through your Chiron. I don't even know, but excuse me. But yeah, Chiron is just one of those placements that will show you where you are like in your shit, like where you are making excuses for yourself, like where you are blocking yourself from having what it is that you really want. People want to like look at these charts to say like, who am I supposed to be? Like, what is my job supposed to be? And like, wouldn't that be cute if you could just like pull up an astrology chart and be like, oh, it says you're supposed to be an architect. Like, no. It's not going to do that. There are indications of like strengths you have, and then of course professions and careers or whatever, like vocations that are in alignment or like use those strengths. Like, having a Mercury in Aquarius, like, it is very easy for me to do things with technology. Like, I was talking to a client yesterday about she's such a networker. Like, she's so good at like meeting people in person, and like most of her clients, most of her work comes through her in-person network. And she is just like, she's fascinated by people like me. And she has another client like who we all get our clients from the internet. And yeah, I wouldn't even know the first thing about no, that's not true. I've had a couple of clients that I've known from, in person, but for the most part, most of my clients come through the internet. I've got my Discord going off right now about like, hey, where are y'all located? And it's like, we've got people in St. Louis, we've got people in Canada, we've got people in Mexico. Like, I literally just have clients all over the place. And that's just very Aquarian, and even like 9th house Mercury in Aquarius, right? So there are definitely things in your chart that can give us an indication of strengths or of, again, like some like a vocational area, or even just like what kind of skills, you may be able to apply in different areas or even like different areas of life that might, pique your interest, because those are going to be things that we would want to lean into, because that's the whole thing. It's not going to tell you what to do. It's going to give you an indication of like your potential. Like, who could you be? Like, who is your highest self? Who is the best version of you? And there are some people who are going to read your chart and like read like the worst version of you. And again, I say like those people are trying to make you feel like shit, so that they can like create a dependence like between you and them, so that you keep coming back to them for answers. And it's really creepy and gross. And yeah, I'm just going to say it out loud. So, right, one of the things though that I do think that you can like really see in your chart, right, it's not like what specifically, like I'm not going to be able to look at my chart. I mean, well, sometimes you can look at your chart and say, what is going on right now? Like why is everything like this? Like, what is my deal, right? And you can look at your transits, look at the transits that are going on right now, how that's interacting with your chart. But like the shorter version, the shortcut is really just to look at your Chiron. And there are two details that you want to like have understood about your Chiron placement. One, of course, is the sign, and the second one is the house. Okay. Now, again, I'm using whole sign here because it is just so much easier to use this like version to teach people. But if you want to have a reading where we use like Placidus housing or a different kind of housing system, that's something that we can do privately. So here, right, so if you pull up your chart in whole sign, it may look just like a little bit different, and it could shift, not the sign, it's always going to be like exactly at the same place. So like if I open up my chart in Placidus, my Chiron is still going to be at 3 degrees Cancer. Like that's not going to change. But in Placidus, it's in the first house. Now in whole sign, it's in the second house. And I've really been exploring this concept lately because it has knocked me on my fucking ass. Especially because it's like that, opposition energy to my all my 8th house Capricorn, right? I mean, it already was in opposition to the Capricorn placements, particularly this Uranus that's at 2 degrees Capricorn, right? Because this is at 3 degrees, so if it's at 2 degrees, it's just like one off, and not too far from the Saturn over here, because that's at 6, so that means it's like about 3 degrees off. So they're still in relatively close like opposition, but with it being like in the second house and in the 8th house, that also just like adds more layers to the story. So when we're talking about Chiron and Cancer, which if you're born in like my generation, Chiron is one of those things that it's not, it doesn't stay in a sign for like a specific period of time. Like some signs it's there longer than others. And so I know that there is like I think it's like, I want to say it's 8 years. I don't know why that number keeps jumping out at me. I could be wrong, but I believe it's an 8-year window that we had Chiron in Cancer. So I was born in 1989. If you were born in 88 or 90 or like right around there, you probably also have your Chiron in Cancer. I make this joke that like most of my clients like have mommy issues, right? Mama Capricorn, and like me too, big time. That's one of the reasons that I love this like name so much. Is like, I want to help you climb mountains and do big things and achieve your goals and like get there. But I know that in order for you to actually do that, you're going to need nurturing and softness and maybe to like reparent yourself along the way. And that's where the Mama Capricorn comes in. So yeah, I know that for me having that Cancer Chiron, like it's always going to be a Cancer Chiron. And Cancer is the placement of nurturing, of softness, of safety and security in your home life, and particularly that maternal nurturer, right? So it's like mommy issues. Like if you want to just totally distill Chiron in Cancer, that's what we're looking at. Now, this is an observation that I've made over, reading like 700 plus charts now in, all of these years of doing astrology. people who have their Chiron retrograde, like myself, generally tend to be people who are like polar, like super resistant to the concept of like if you call me a victim, like, oh, you're acting like a victim, or like, stop acting like, oh my, that is one of the like most offensive things that you could say to me, because I'm very responsible for myself. Like, I take responsibility for myself and for my situation and for what's going on in my life. And if I don't like what's going on, then I am responsible for changing it. People who have their Chiron in Cancer tend to be, or not Chiron in Cancer, people who tend to have who have their Chiron retrograde, which you can see that if you like zoom all the way in, you can see like the little R's next to some of your placements. I only have Chiron and Jupiter retrograde, and actually let's fucking talk about that for a goddamn second, because if I have my Chiron retrograde in the second house is the house of Taurus. I have my Jupiter being expansiveness, being growth, being, a lot of people talk about like financial abundance, right? If you want to like make a lot of money, right? Like, look at that, like, look at your Jupiter, because it's like where you get lucky, like where you feel really expansive. Okay, so that's in Taurus, like actually in Taurus, but both of those are retrograde. Ooh, I feel like I just like new layer unlocked just now, like right in front of you, like, oh shit. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so yeah, having that retrograde Chiron, it's like, it took me a very long time to be able to like admit that I wasn't like totally okay. Like, I just like I feel like I related to especially my story about my mother, right? And I like my relationship to like being parented by someone who like was not around and was not nurturing and just did not put me first. Like, that was just like something that happened to me. Like, that was just like a that's part of the like plot line, you know? But it took me a long time to actually feel something about that, and to process how I felt about that, and to process not only how I felt about that, but like how that was unconsciously affecting so many other areas of my life. Yeah. And so with this being in the second house, okay, which I just mentioned kind of a second ago, the second house is the house of the material world. It's the house of finances and money. People want to just like totally like generalize the second house as the money house. And sure, but this is really like the key to the second house. It's that in order for you to create abundance on the outside, you have to feel worthy of it on the inside. And it's not like you have to feel good or positive. This is the fucking kicker, y'all. It is not about doing good, being good, having good, nope. It's not about being positive or positive energy or any of that. Like, and in fact, oh man, I'm like really tripping now, y'all. I'm like, my boyfriend says that I'm naive, and I think, like, I didn't think that I was, but as I get older, I realize how much I really am super naive, because like, I've been in this industry, right? I've been in the online like coaching, industry, and especially being someone who deals in astrology and things like this, like you could categorize me in like the spiritual, right, realm. I remember back in when Saturn was in Sagittarius, everyone and their mother was a manifestation coach, right? A manifestation guru, whatever. And like the mantra, like the thing that everybody was doing back then was like positive vibes only, and like raising your vibes and like being positive. And it's like, that was so long ago, right? We're talking about 2017, okay? And I'm sitting here just now in 2023 realizing that that was a manipulative tactic that they were using, because they knew that you don't need to be in that energy all the time. and they're convincing you that that is what's actually happening. And because you don't feel that way yet, you feel like you're not there yet, therefore you're inadequate, therefore you must have, there's something else that you need to learn, you need to pay them money, please. Oh God. Oh, why does everybody suck so much? Oh my God. Okay, everything's gonna be okay. Okay. Yuck. Because that's not it. Because if that was it, like, there are a lot of rich people who seem like they're very upset all the time, right? They seem like they're angry. They seem like they are like low vibe, low energy. I mean, even like they do low vibe, low energy shit, right? We know lots of people were flying around on airplanes and doing shit they shouldn't have been doing for a long time, and they were like rich motherfucking people. Okay, so maybe it's not about being good or doing good or being positive. Maybe it's literally just about being in the frequency of belief that like this is my minimum. This is what my requirements are. This is what I have. This is what I am worthy of, right? And you have to do it on the inside. You have to do it on the inside for the outside to match. And you have to be like in that energy, you have to carry it while the outside like falls into place. And I mean, this is something that I've been like, right? This is the Chiron of it all, because it's not something that heals. It's something that you just like literally have to get better at. Like you just deal with it. Like, and not just deal with it, but like you learn to deal with it differently. You learn to relate to the experience differently, right? It's kind of like, I would say it's almost like your first breakup is like a very good analogy for how I feel Chiron should be embraced. You don't break up, have your first breakup and then just like swear off love forever, right? Like that's not something that you don't do that. And then you don't like hold that projection of that one person and then maybe things that like went right or went wrong and then like project that onto everybody else that you ever like have a relationship with for the rest of your life, right? No, that's not how, like you are supposed to have that relationship, learn from it, grow, figure out what it is that you like, that you loved from that, what it is that you want more of, and then like be a better person in the next relationship. Like that's how it's supposed to go, and that's how your Chiron should be, right? That it's like, okay, like, and I don't, hear me when I say this too, like just because it's in like the same house doesn't mean you have to like be experiencing it the same way over and over, right? It's like if I have my Chiron in the second house, maybe there are times where like I've literally been homeless, like sometimes by choice, sometimes not so much, just because that was that was a bottom, or like that was a way for me to like experience that like, wow, no one is coming to help me. Like that's really what like the wow, no one's coming to help me. How can I respond to that situation differently next time, right? And how can I like raise what my bottom was? It's like, just because you fall again doesn't mean you have to fall all the way the fuck on your face. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't mean you have to fall all the way down the stairs every time. Like, I do believe that the falls can get softer and that, eventually, like, over time, like, maybe it's like, whoops, like, I tripped on the sidewalk. Like, everything's cool, though. Like, I'm just, like, back in step, And, yes, I do. Thank you for, like, bringing that up, right? The requirements list versus calling it a budget. That is something that, like, that's how I feel about everything, right? It's like, nothing is what it is. I don't know. That's like such a weird thing to say. Maybe it's like, wow, Fani, you've done a lot of LSD, right? But it's like, who decided what anything is? Like, who decided? And like, can I change that? Can I change, like, is it fact? Like, do I have to? Right? I think that's even where, like, the concept of the requirements list really came in, because it was like, what I don't want is people shooting for, like, and this is where people would really self-sabotage back in the, manifestation craze days. It was like, they would all of a sudden, they'd be like, they're living like, you know, at their means. They're living paycheck to paycheck, okay? And then they're like creating these vision boards, or they're like, you know, writing on, you know, their 555 times of like, I am a money magnet, or like whatever. And they're like picturing like Balenciaga and like Louboutins and like private jets, and it's like your mind cannot even remotely wrap around that right now, and it feels false. It feels like it's not true, and you're going to literally, like, your mind does three things: it deletes, distorts, and generalizes the information around you. There is so much information going on around you. It is literally a computer situation, right? Too much information for the RAM that you have in this hard drive, okay? One of the reasons I love LSD is just like a little quick upgrade of that RAM, okay? But like, in order for you to process things, it's either going to delete, distort, or generalize information. You're not just like walking on the sidewalk and it's like, oh my God, like the cracks in the sidewalk, and there's a tree, and on the tree there's bark, and on the bark there's ants, and like you can't, like, we would be just completely overloaded all the time, which is where like neurodivergent brains are really like struggling in this world where, you know, I don't believe that there's like any more like cases necessarily of like ADHD or autism than there were before. It's just that we are so, like, there's too much information, and now like people like me, we're just overwhelmed with all of that information. It's like there's more than there ever has been in our entire lives. And so if you're looking at a vision board, if you're looking at something and it is too far off from your current circumstances, your brain will just shut it off and will say, like, I'm not even going to process that. Like, I'm not even going to look at that because that's not for me. Oh, private jet, that's not for me. Like, I fly like middle seat coach. Like, why am I looking at a private jet right now? Okay. And that is where I really encourage people to like have incremental requirements lists. I redo mine, and I have since February. Oh shit. Yeah, it was like the first time that I did my requirements list was like right now, in 2018. It was like my Saturn return, y'all. And so oh my gosh, I had 2 clients this week, like in their Saturn return. Like, I pull up their chart and I'm like, oh, you're like in it? Anyways, so, oh shit. Oh, requirements list, right? So I set my first requirements list, and I was like terrified when I did it the first time. I was living in a room in my mom's house, like, true story, and was recently like leaving like my daughter's father and trying to get back on my own 2 feet, and I was freelancing, and I was also starting my coaching business. And I needed to get out, like, because my mom's house was not a supportive environment. That Chiron Cancer, right? Not a supportive environment, and I needed to get out there so that I could create a supportive environment for my daughter. And so I sat down, I did this exercise for the very first time, and I was petrified because I had never wanted to like look at it. I was just like, I felt that like whatever the number was going to be way too big, and was going to be so much bigger than I was capable of, or whatever. And I did it, and I can tell you to this day, right, that number was $6,312. I remember. I remember both being surprised at how it wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be, and also being like, oh shit, that's a lot of money. Because that was like $6,312 that I needed a month. And that month, right, it was February 2018, that month I made $7,000 cash. And it was such a revelation to me because I had been trying for a very long time. And I just like, I had no requirements. I had no standard. I had no baseline. I was willing to accept like whatever it was that like I was given. Like like shut up and be grateful was like the way that I had like talked to myself about it, about anything, right? Like I wouldn't negotiate for higher pay when I would be getting like jobs, you know? There was just so long that I was like, oh, I don't like, no, I'm okay. Like, I don't need, like, I'm fine, you know? And I literally just like, I was not fine. I was not fine. And once I decided, okay, this is what I require to be fine, period, like that, like done, like that's it, like that is what I require. And I'm going to step into that. And I know that I'm going to be completely supported, both by myself, by, you know, the world, by the universe, by the people that I'm allowing into my life now. And I see this as the same thing as like raising your standards in, you know, your relationships, or raising your standards in any area of your life, that it's like, okay, if I don't say how I'm going to be treated, if I don't put that bar here, then that opens up the opportunity for people to treat me any kind of way, right? If you don't have standards for the kind of person that you want to be like in partnership with, or if you don't have standards for the kind of like job that you want to have, or like whatever, then it's just like whatever comes your way, whatever, okay? And that was where the concept of the requirement came from, because I also was not, like the whole private jet thing was not something that was ever going to be like planting itself in my brain. It was just like not working for me. And so, and like that's just not like, first of all, it's not what I wanted then, and it's like still not what I want, right? And so that's also something that you really need to like get clear on. It's like how, like, I'm trying to, like, so many times people want to climb up a mountain and they don't actually want to climb up the mountain. Like they think that they're supposed to, or they think that they will earn love or attention or praise from someone. My sister is 10 years older than me, and she performs to this day. She does all of her decisions, everything that she does, it's all with the intention of making her mom proud, except for that her mom's been dead for like 7 years, and she's not going to get that pat on the back from her mom that she wants. Like I love her so much, and I try to like help her, but that's so many people are living for someone else, whether they're alive or dead, right? And you can't do that. You can't do that for anyone, and especially you can't do it for your kids, right? Like when you do that, you are like literally showing them, hey, it's fine to sacrifice everything that you ever like wanted or felt like you needed in your life in order for the comfort and safety of others. Like, no big deal, right? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to her. That was, damn, just like reading myself all over the place in front of you. Welcome to Chiron lessons. I watched that Pamela Anderson doc yesterday, and I wanted to pull open her chart today. Like, I literally have it bookmarked here. I used to do celebrity readings all the time. It was one of my favorite pastimes. And if you're newer to astrology and you're not just here to like, hey, how can this like help me? Like, how can, like Fani just tell me what to do, but if you actually want to like learn how to use astrology, these are really great opportunities to do it, right? Like watch a documentary about like a celebrity or about like somebody, or even like watching documentaries. Like we were talking yesterday about like Astro history, right? It's like I was watching a documentary about, it was called 5 Went Back, or like 5 something like that. 5 went in, I don't remember, but it was about these 5 like filmmakers from like the golden era of Hollywood, like silent filmmakers, and like right, some real old people, that they like went over to World War II to like film like documentary footage. And it was like a very interesting documentary that I started watching, or it's like a little series. And so as I was doing that, I was like pulling up charts and like pulling up event charts, and like, oh, where was Pluto at this time, and where was Saturn at this time? And like yesterday I was nerding out with one of my clients because like the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, or the last time that Pluto entered Aquarius, right, was the beginning of the American and French revolutions. And so we're the people who are going to be leading the next revolution, right? Especially like the Saturn in, or the Pluto and Scorpio generation. And that got me thinking, would like George Washington have Pluto in Scorpio? Right? Because not the younger guys. Because like Hamilton and all them, they were all like 20. Anyway, this is what I'm talking about. Just like absolute nerd shit. But let's talk about Pamela Anderson for a second. I don't know if y'all have seen that documentary that she put out. I sobbed at the... It's so good. I'm gonna get emotional. It was so good. Especially the end. The end was so good. I just like love her. But so the reason that I pulled up her chart, and I won't go into it because it could be like potentially triggering, like you go ahead and you watch it if that's something that you want to do, but like she was talking about something that happened in her childhood, and basically like a very freaky situation. Like, again, I won't go like completely into it, but she had told a babysitter that she hated her, I hated the babysitter, and she said, I hoped that they would die. She said, I wish you would die. And then the next day that babysitter died in a car accident. And Pamela Anderson said she always felt like really weird, like that she thought that she like psychically like caused this like death or whatever, and that she like felt like she couldn't tell anybody because of that. And I was like, we need to pull up her chart because that is like fucking bananas. And thought it was super interesting. So we have heightened degrees, right? We like there is no cusp, right? You're not a cusp of anything. You're either this or you're that. And again, there's more nuance, like if you're feeling like I'm so not a Capricorn or whatever, then like let's open up your chart. I'm sure that there's a reason that you feel that way. But with Pamela Anderson right there, right, we talk about like heightened or sensitive like astrological points in the chart, and her Chiron is at 29 degrees 2950. Okay, this is like literally a 1/10 of a degree away from being in Aries. So this is like a super heightened point of the chart. So to have her Chiron in Pisces, definitely like insecurity about her like creativity, right? Like her connection to the divine, and like her like you could tell that she's very intuitive, and I think that for a long time she like shut that down. And I mean, growing up at the time that she did, because she's not about to, but like in another cycle she'll have her second Saturn return. Like she's in her 50s, like she's born in 67, so like I know in the 80s, it was like very like anti-woo time, right? Like the 80s and 90s were what they call satanic panic, right? Like they were like people who dressed in like trench coats or dressed like goths or whatever were like villainized, and even some of them were like charged with crimes and held in jail for a very long time for things that they had nothing to do with, simply because they like looked weird. And so I can see why someone who has like a very, like, I feel like in another life, like if Pamela Anderson had been born at a different time or to different people, or I don't know, something, I feel like she could have been like a very famous psychic. Like I feel like she could have been like someone who's a clairvoyant, or someone who like helps people to connect even with the beyond. Like I have a feeling like she kept saying these things in the documentary. There was this one thing that she said. She was standing on the beach, and it sounds like me, like on psychedelics. She's like, sometimes I wonder if any of this is real, and like if I'm just dead. Like I don't even know if I'm dead or alive right now. And I'm like, damn, like that's fucking deep, Pamela Anderson. Like she's so like she's very like in it, she's very intuitive. And to see her Chiron up there, like I could see that like after she would say something like that, you know, she would like giggle or like get a little uncomfortable and like remember that there's a fucking camera on her. And she mentioned several times, she's like, I'm probably not going to watch this. Like she was like telling like whoever was making the producer or whatever, was like, I'm not going to watch this. Like you can do this. I'm going to give you like, you know, she's like, I'm going to give you everything, you know, I'm going to, you know, tell my story or whatever. And she's like, but I don't want to know even what you're going to do with it. Like, I don't want to know how you're going to, she's like, this is a lot of trust right now that I'm giving you. And you could like totally do whatever, like say my story however you want. And it's so interesting for someone who was, you know, she was so visible for such a long time, for her to have her Chiron there is, it's almost like she couldn't be seen for herself. Like she definitely, like she had to like put on a character or put on, you know, like be who they wanted her to be, you know? And you could even see that again, like in the documentary, there were times where she mentioned like she felt silly, like with her like super blonde hair. And then of course it became like part of her, you know? But like there were so many decisions I think that were made initially, and that it was just like, okay, like very people pleasing. I mean, and you can like there was a lot of stuff that she mentioned in the documentary, and even like if you just look up stuff about her life, like she's very spontaneous, like hello. Moon in Aries in the 11th house, right? So like I'm actually not surprised that when she talks about like her marriages, and like especially the one, like the very famous one to Tommy Lee, where she didn't know his last name. Like she was married to him before she actually knew like what his full name was, because she thought that his name was like Tommy Lee Jones, and he's like, no, that's someone else. And he like flew to Cancun like against her wishes, basically, to like go see her. And then they had this like very like, they knew each other for like 4 days, and just like, okay, let's get married. And like, wow, that is such an Aries like moon thing to do. Just like very emotionally spontaneous. And especially if like it's like in a friend setting, or especially if it's something that she feels like this is going to like these are my people, right? Yeah. And I always found it very interesting, right? Because he was not the only person who was like kind of a bad boy, like rock, right, guy that she dated, because she also was married to Kid Rock, right? Terrible choices in men, by the way, right? And I mean, you could see that. I mean, her stories there. But I do, right, have this like, oh, look, y'all, we mentioned, okay, so we've been talking about Chiron in the second house, and I mentioned to you about how something that I have been working through and am working through and have worked through, and right, it's cyclical with Chiron, is being like asking for exactly what I want. Like this is like making my requirements known, right? That this is my standard. This is my standard, and holding it, right? Chiron in the second house, right? And it's retrograde. Oh shit. And then she has Mercury in Cancer, right? So mine is also Cancer. Okay. So she has Mercury retrograde in Cancer in the second house. So there's definitely still here a lot too about like needing to be the nurturer, needing to be the provider. Like she was definitely like, I love like Cancer sun women, because they're just such they're like born to be moms, you know, like whether they're actually like biological moms or not, like they're like always the mom friend of the group. They're always like the one who like, oh, I brought extra snacks, or like just they're very thoughtful, and they're very considerate. And it's mostly because they're thinking about how they like to be supported, and they want to support other people, right? My daughter is a Cancer. It's very healing. She's so sweet. She's so thoughtful. And yeah, so I can see that in Pamela Anderson as well. But she has this retrograde Mercury here, and that just like screams like I'm gonna put my needs last. And such a duality too, because having Venus and Jupiter here in Leo in the third house, like you would think that she would be able to like very clearly articulate what her, you know, desires and needs are. And maybe she does when she's already committed to somebody. And there was a moment in the doc where she did mention that like with all of her husbands or with all of her partners, like there would be this point where you know, they would be like treating her some type of way, or they would be doing whatever, and she would just like stop, and she'd be like, you can't talk to me like that, right? And that because it's like she hadn't, you know, talked to them like that up until then, because she had accepted it up until then, it is a shock for them. And it's almost like she had to get like pushed all the way before she would actually like, no, you can't do this to me. And I say this to my clients all the time, like, it is so much harder for you to reestablish, like for you to set new boundaries or for you to set new standards in existing relationships, right? It is so much more challenging for you to reinforce new standards in existing relationships than it is, right, obviously, for you to like have new relationships start at that standard, right? It's like if you've been working for someone for a really long time and they have this expectation that you go above and beyond, and their version of above and beyond is you like answering your phone after hours and like doing spreadsheets at home and shit, like not on the clock or like not getting paid. You're gonna have a really hard time, you know, coming back over that line and like telling your boss or whoever that you've been doing this for, like, no, like you're gonna have to pay me, you're gonna have to do this. Like, they're still gonna have the expectation of you like picking up the phone or whatever, because that's what you have been doing. It's gonna take them retraining, and they may be completely resistant to it. Like, that's not the relationship that they know, right? And that's where like individuality comes in, and they get to make their choice about whether or not they still want to be part of this relationship or whatever. But like, if you know, start a new job and you're like, when you know, have the interview or whatever, it's like, when I bring on new clients, I tell them like, these are my office hours, like this is what you should expect. And you know, like it's up to me to, I mean, I tell them like, if I respond to you outside of my hours, like that's my prerogative. But like for all of the people that I had clients, you know, and or that were my clients for years and years, and I would answer the phone, I'd answer their messages, y'all, at like 11 o'clock at night, like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like if I'm up, I would just like see the message and I would answer it. And then like if they'd be up, and you know, if a client is messaging you, especially like if you're doing this kind of work, if a client is messaging you at 11, 12 o'clock at night, and they're not like a new parent, or they're not like, they don't work like off shifts or whatever, they're in a state of like, they're emotionally spiraling in the middle of the night, and like, let them like regulate and calm down before you respond to them. Like, what the fuck, you know? But this was like my early days in my business, and again, just like the people pleasing of it all. I was like, oh, this is what I have to do. Like this is what I'm given, this is what I have to do, and whatever. And I feel like that's probably something that Pamela Anderson dealt with for a little while. But anyways, so just for like a quick hot second, because I totally like just like jumped right into what we were doing. Oh, this isn't what I wanted to do. Mundane. So we've still got, right, the sun sextiling Chiron. We're gonna have the moon entering Cancer this afternoon. This afternoon. So when is our void of course? Ew, for like a long time, y'all. So like we're void of course now, void of course through like the middle of the afternoon. I would encourage you to, and this is Eastern time, so feel free to like adjust that accordingly. By this evening, we should be feeling a lot more at ease, right? But toward the middle of the day, we could be feeling like emotionally erratic or emotionally reactive. So make sure you're like hit the instant replay button in your brain before you like react at someone, right? It's like, did I hear them right? Is that exactly what I heard? Like, is that what they meant, right? Because that will help with so much conflict, okay? So let's pull a card, and then we'll set you free on this day. And again, if you are in my Discord, you can go ahead and, actually, one more thing. If you're in my Discord, if you're one of my, right, in my group, you can go over to it's in the Astro chat category, all right, and I posted this, and you can go get your horoscope for the month, and then all of your weekly reflections to see how things are gonna be impacting you. And then again, if you want to like go deeper, get more specific, get my eyes on it, that is always an option for you. Okay, so let's pull our card. Who do we need to hear from today? And let me know, like, if there are any celebrities that you're like, I would love to know about them. Mars. This is a take action. This is a light the fire under you. This says, time to get fucking moving. Enough talk, enough planning, enough thinking. Let's go. He looks restless. It's like, about to check his watch, basically. Like, are we going? Yes, we certainly are. Well, welcome to February. This is going to be a spicy month before we head into an extra spicy March. This year, y'all, I am so, like, I don't know, I'm on pins and needles. There's so much changing. There's so much going on. We'll be here to watch it all happen together, right? I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, friends.